Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Blast from the Past. Hell's aspiring angel takes on her demonic doppelganger in this action-packed, time-traveling E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Blast from the Past with a bonus E-Steam comic book, No Good Deed, in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. I've had a story in my head for a couple of months now for my next novel. Unfortunately, I can't write that novel because the story I have running through my head right now is a story featuring DC superheroes. And in the past, when I had ideas for stories featuring DC superheroes like Wonder Woman, I oftentimes used one of my own characters like Isis to tell that story in books like Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess and Isis the Beauty Myth, and those turned out to be pretty good stories. But this is a story that I definitely need DC superheroes to be able to tell my story and make my commentary as related to the modern day superhero. Unfortunately, DC superheroes are owned by AT&T and Time Warner, and if I put fingers to the keyboard to write that story, I couldn't publish it on the SJS Direct imprint. Now, the story I planned was going to be partially inspired by Justice League Unlimited's Cadmus arc, Kingdom Come, and Marvel's Mutant X series by Howard Mackie. And in this story, where I was going to make a commentary on the modern day superhero, it was going to be about a Justice League that has become a bureaucratic organization completely detached from the people they served on Earth. And utilizing the centralized mission style approach that was presented on the Justice League animated show, the League's heroes have managed to bring the world's problems down to Justice Lord levels. Unfortunately, that has created tensions between the Justice League and the world's governments, and while the world is a safer and cleaner place, it's a very tense one. It's a world where the League believes it's acting in people's best interest. However, the world's leaders feel like people's freedoms are being infringed on the heroes who have become gods above them in the satellite. And in this story, I really wanted to make a commentary on what happens when you become a superhero for a very long time. It's very similar to what happens when somebody works in a corporation for a couple of decades, or somebody works in a civil service job for a couple of decades. They become complacent, they become detached from their work, and they lose their passion. And in many cases, they wind up becoming apathetic and indifferent to the public that they serve, and that leads to their approach becoming very, very cold towards the public. So they think that the job is serving them, and instead of them thinking about the people, they become really disconnected from the people. And this is something that Mark Waid brilliantly made a commentary on in his classic Kingdom Come, when he talked about in the early pages, the descendants of the superheroes and the battles that they would just have in the streets without regard for any human safety. In those panels in Kingdom Come, he was really, I thought, was making a commentary on how detached people had become, and he was trying to say that Superman leaving was the reason why these heroes became detached. But as I see it, Superman in my story is going to be a major part of the detachment, because your Superman, again, as I see it, is getting older. And when people get old and they start doing the same job over and over again for years, they do become detached from the job. And when they're around the people of their generation, they become very detached. And that's a major point here with this story. And it's one I want to explore, because when I look at the way comic books have been presenting the modern day superhero is, again, a lot like that civil service worker or that corporate executive who's been on the job for 30 years. They've become very comfortable, they've become very complacent, they've taken people for granted, and they're no longer approaching their job with the same passion and enthusiasm they used to. And while they're serving the people, they don't really care about the people like they used to. So that's something I'm seeing with a lot of today's modern day comics. I'm not really seeing that passion or that heart, and that's why we get these stories these days that aren't about heroes in a quest for truth and justice or using their great powers responsibly. I say ever since the days of Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. And ever since the days of Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, we've been on this endless cycle of deconstruction where these heroes are basically broken down, but there's no real effort to rebuild anything to really give us an understanding of what being a hero is about. And an example of this was shown to me with the Dark Knight's Metal, which is, as I see it, basically glorified fan fiction. And what really was, I saw a troubling turn, Avengers Endgame and Justice League Apocalypse War. Now, Avengers Endgame was a very troubling movie for me because it showed a complete compromise of ethics as related to superheroes. Now, your superheroes oftentimes always made a point to stand and do what was right, but in Avengers Endgame, we saw the heroes decide to stoop to the villain's level and make an ethical compromise when they decided to go back in time to go get the Infinity Stones to undo what Thanos had did. And when they did that, what happened was the hero went from going on the high road to going onto the low road, and they wound up becoming on the same level as the villain, making the same ethical compromise to go get these Infinity Stones and do the exact same thing that the villain did. And many people, they would look at that Avengers Endgame and think, oh, that was the right thing to do. No, that wasn't the right thing to do. That showed that the hero had compromised their standard and had gone down to the villain's level. And even more troubling than Avengers Endgame, which is continuing this ethical trend as related to the detached superhero, we're starting to see this with Justice League Apocalypse War. Now, Justice League Apocalypse War was a very troubling movie for me as related to the superhero because it presented us a Superman and a Justice League that was not acting on the best interest of the people. Now, in Justice League Apocalypse War, we have superheroes looking to go on the offensive. And I remember in the Cadmus arc, in one of the episodes, Superman was pondering going to confront Lex Luthor. However, if it wasn't for Wally West and Green Arrow talking him out of that, he would have wound up doing more damage than good and playing into Lex Luthor and Amanda Waller's hands. But in Justice League Unlimited, we had, again, Arrow and we had Flash to talk him out of that and keep them on the straight and narrow path and not lead to these tensions rising by an offensive assault. But in Justice League Apocalypse War, we have Superman talking about going on the offense to attack Darkseid, and that's completely out of character for a superhero. A superhero, like a Jedi Knight as I see it, only uses their power for defense, and they never use their power for offense. When the hero starts going out here and talking about attacking people, that's when the hero starts heading down the road to becoming a villain. And a hero, when they start talking about, oh, we heard information they're going to do this to us before, and we're going to go out here and do it to them before they do it to us, that's a bad sign because that's what villains do. Villains attack people. They don't go out here and defend. So when I looked at Justice League Apocalypse War and I looked at the premise and I heard Superman talking about invading Apocalypse, I looked at that and I cringed, because that shows me how far the whole superhero genre has fallen, and how far the whole superhero premise has fallen. Because when the hero starts talking about attacking the bad guys, that's when the hero has now gone down to the villain's level. So when I look at today's modern day superhero, a lot of writers really do not understand what being a hero is about, and that's why they're going out here writing superheroes and being a part of an army waging a war. But superheroes were never about waging war on the bad guys. No, superheroes were always about trying to help people in their communities. At one time, Superman said he was a friend, and Spider-Man was the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I have to ask, what happened to Superman being a friend, and what happened to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? I mean, this is what the base of what superheroes were supposed to be all about. They were supposed to be about people helping other people in their communities, and people who had extra gifts using their gifts to help other people have a better quality of life. I mean, that's one of the things when I go out here and I write stories like the Isis series, She's the Goddess Next Door. The whole concept was about being a girl next door who goes out here and helps people in their community. And with the E-Steam character, I made her originally a devilish diva, but then I made her Hell's aspiring angel, in that she came from a dark place and now she aspires to do better by helping other people. And that's one of the things I find to be really lacking in a lot of modern comics that the big two and other independent comic publishers produce, is that whole connection to human beings and being able to say, hey, I'm out here helping other people. I mean, the people have been taken out of comic books, and that's why the readership, as I see it, is so low, because people don't see themselves being helped by superheroes, and the superheroes' whole world has become this very, again, insular place where it's about them and their personal feuds with these members of the rogues galleries, or even members of their own teams. And that's something I really wanted to make a commentary about in my next novel, but I can't write that novel because, unfortunately, I don't have the permissions to write characters from DC Comics. And I really needed to write characters like Superman to make my point about becoming really caught up in your ideals, and characters like Green Arrow to talk about the human part of things and trying to keep some sort of balance as related to the League and keep them from going too far caught up in their ideals. And I wanted to also bring in key characters like Amanda Waller to talk about the tensions as related to the government, and some obscure characters like Black Thorn, who is from the old Vigilante series of the 80s, to talk about the bridge between the government and the hero of my story. And I also wanted to bring in other characters like Roy Harper to really make a commentary on the role of the father, and Wally West to make a role of the father. And I also had a major role for the Raven character as related to becoming connected to people. I really wanted to make a commentary on the superhero, because when I look at the state of the superhero these days, the superhero is in a really bad state. They're starting on the road to becoming villains, because instead of them thinking about serving the people, more and more of the stories are about them serving themselves, and they are becoming so detached from people that instead of them seeing an effort as related to their works about doing things to help people, it's all of them getting more and more contemptuous of the very people that they serve. So when I look at the superhero, I really see the modern day superhero in a very bad place. And again, I really wanted to write this commentary, and I really wanted to make this statement about the superhero, very similar to what your Alan Moore did with Watchmen. And he talked about this detachment in Watchmen, because when I read Watchmen, everybody was so detached from people. That's why you had Ozymandias talking about, no problem in killing 3 million people. And you had Dr. Manhattan just going off-world. And then you had Silk Spectre and Night Owl just going on wanton violence. There was no connection to the public. And this is what I'm seeing in most modern-day comics right now. And it's a troubling picture, because Watchmen, when Alan Moore originally wrote Watchmen, Alan Moore was trying to tell us not to be these types of characters. And sadly, when I look at today's modern day comics, they are becoming these kinds of characters. And what's really scary is most comic fans don't see how these characters are becoming these disconnected, detached individuals, and how they are in a passively, aggressively expressing contempt for the very public that they serve. So I wanted to really make that commentary in my story, and I really wanted to use the Justice League to make that commentary. And I'm really thinking, I really want to write this story, because all the words are in my head for the story. I have the passion and the heart to tell this story, but I can't sell that story to DC Comics, and I can't publish it on my own. I mean, in order for me to do this story, I would practically have to build an entirely brand new universe outside of the SJS Direct universe I'm managing, and create an entirely new world of characters similar to what people saw in a Disney film like The Incredibles. I would have to build an entire world of superheroes, and that's a very, very daunting task when I really think about it. But this is a story I really wanted to tell, and I believe it's one that needs to be told, because when I look again at the modern day superhero, the modern day superhero is so far removed from what Stan Lee envisioned and Julius Schwartz envisioned, as related to the superhero being a person who wants to help out in the community, that it's just quite troubling to see what they've become. And I really believe we need a commentary similar to what I believe a Gene Roddenberry or a Rod Serling would do, as related to making a statement about the dark state of the superhero, and in an effort to get people to see why the superhero must be connected to the people in order to serve the communities where they're living in. Now, I haven't decided really what I want to do with this story idea. I just wanted to put something out here, because this is a story I'm really passionate about. But if you want to see some of my other stories as related to the SJS Direct universe, you can pick up my books in the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos and be able to publish more books and pay for book covers, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Vampires Stalk the Darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com.